The idea of what I bring to Tim Burton is a certain level of shorthand because we've worked together for so long. First and foremost, he's an amazing artist. And I always try to bring the art into the costume. He understands the craft, he appreciates the craft. When you work with an artist as iconic as Tim, as a collaborator, you don't want to go back to all your old tricks. So for me, it's a huge challenge every time I work with him because I know what he'll like automatically. So I try to push it outside of those parameters. Hi, I'm Colleen Atwood. Myself and my co-designer, Mark Sutherland, are the designers for Wednesday Addams from Netflix.
Wednesday is certainly a unique name. I'm guessing it was the day of the week you were born.
I was born on Friday the 13th.
It was Tommy Harper, the producer, who called me and he said, Tim's going to call you because he's doing this series and he would like for you to do it. The first thing I do is read the script, because the script, they can say it's Wednesday Addams, but it could be so many things. The first place I started was a school at Nevermore. In the beginning, I had 2 cast members, Wednesday and Enid, which are Jenna and Emma, but I didn't know the rest of the cast yet, so I started with the 2 girls. The idea for them was that we didn't want to have Enid just look silly because she was in pastels. We knew that Wednesday was in black and white, but we also didn't want her to become a caricature in black and white. When you look at kids outside of schools that are heavy-duty uniform schools, you see everybody interpret a uniform in a different way, and I think that that interpretation per character is what makes it stand alone as a uniform in a story. In Wednesday's case, for her uniform, first the shirt, which I had this old vintage Carnaby Street kind of shirt from the 60s that had a really tiny elongated Peter Pan collar, which a lot of uniform shirts have Peter Pan collars, but this was a Peter Pan with some panache. This necktie that I made for her, which is black on one side, white on the other, which doesn't really show, but the edge of it shows. Little things like that made me really happy. The fabric's actually hand-painted, hand silk screened, because I couldn't find a fabric that had sort of the right gradation on camera of the black and gray that I wanted. So you don't have that sort of strobe effect of stripes. I've done this before with Tim with stripes. On Sleepy Hollow, I painted Christina Ricci's black and white dress with stripes with a yellow edge on it, just to do kind of the same effect and break it up a little bit. And the other thing I loved in making this is the top of the skirt, the stripes are black, but when you move, the gray stripes show. So it kind of gives you a barber pole effect in movement, which I did with all the school uniform skirts, which was kind of a pain when you went to make them to get the math of it all right. I think the idea of the longer skirt, the sort of Victorian black stockings, the heavy shoes, which, you know, give her a real edge and a weight to her character, and sort of helped her with her movement, are the things that sort of make it specially Wednesday.
Hello, Thing.
Besides the uniforms, the next step was what they wore to hang out in. And so the first time we see Wednesday, she's in her original costume, and Enid is in bright and exciting pastels. I really wanted to continue the graphic into the color, so you had black and white graphics parallel to a color graphic in the costumes. So I found things for Enid that, even though it was colors and stuff, there were angles and edge to everything, rather than just being girly in that way. I think the first sweater we see her in, which has the angles in it, it's an Angora sweater. It's coupled with a skirt, this kind of crocheted little flowers, but they're crocheted so they don't look girly, they just look printy. And then the kind of Wednesday of it all is so contrasty to that, but still kind of balanced. Tim's a reactive director, so I always show him a lot of different things. He just looks at them and goes, I like that one.
I am not you, Mother. I will never fall in love or be a housewife or have a family.
In the first Zoom I had with Catherine, she had her hair straightened, red lipstick. She was ready to be Morticia. So we talked about the dress. We knew it would be that shape and it would be a long dress, and she really wanted to be able to move in it, that it was fluid on her. I made her dress in 3 different materials for the first fitting. I made it in leather in the beginning, which looked really amazing. It felt too costumey. So we ended up with the jersey because it draped. It was sort of ethereal. In season 2, she'll have a lot of looks, so it'll be really fun to see what Morticia does when she's, you know, out of the dress and into around the house looks.
Please excuse Wednesday. She's allergic to color.
Oh, wow.
When you use black and white, you're limited, but if you're going to be limited, it's a great world to be limited in. You can juxtaposition the 2 colors in different ways graphically that can make things look very different. You know, when I found I call it the potholder sweater, I was in Romania and I walked into the Zara store there, and there was like a rail of those sweaters, and I was like, oh, they must have heard I was coming, because it was so great, because I was like, always everywhere I was, whether I was in London, Romania, wherever I was always looking for black and white, different versions. You start seeing stuff in the world when you're looking for something that's been there all the time, but you see it in a different light. I won't say I redid Wednesday, but I feel like I took Wednesday into today's world, into a world that was applicable to a large audience. One of my favorite costumes in the movie was kind of my second one I did after the uniform, which is the costume she wears playing the cello on the roof, which is just a gigantic oversized sweatshirt, a pair of baggy sweatpants shorts, and her shoes and knee socks. It was nerdy, but it was cool, relaxed, but a little bit different than what other kids wore to hang out in. It had to be practical because a cello, your legs are spread, so you have to have something that's like movable in that way. When I put that on with her hair and her makeup and everything, I was like, you know, this is the beginning of Wednesday in the world, and then we just spun out from there. The floral dress that she wears in the opening with the fish and then coming to the school, it says the Wednesday that's come before, so it's immediately recognizable to the audience. And I changed it up a little bit by adding some shoes that I found that I thought were great, which are kind of like a girl Mary Jane shoe, but they've got a little bit of a bondage vibe with all the straps. The idea of what I bring to Tim Burton is a certain level of shorthand because we've worked together for so long. First and foremost, he's an amazing artist. And I always try to bring the art into the costume. He understands the craft, he appreciates the craft. When you work with an artist as iconic as Tim, as a collaborator, you don't want to go back to all your old tricks. So for me, it's a huge challenge every time I work with him because I know what he'll like automatically. So I try to push it outside of those parameters to come up with new things all the time for him and for myself.